SHALA log 027, April 13th, 2020. Some limbs of yoga can be taught, some can only be caught. This is a proposition that has sparked a debate about every single one of the 8 limbs. And these are perennial debates. And the question and discussion from Liz the week before last brings this very much to the fore. So I wanted to sleep for a week or so on the contributions to Liz's observations before I said anything, because I had an intuition, but I didn't want to get ahead of ourselves. And now I think that intuition was actually right. So Liz said that she actually has an easier time very often of staying in the present moment, in the actual flow of experience of breath bandha drishti, when the energy of the practice is slow. She's in shoulder stand. The breath is getting deeper and slower, and the energy of the practice has more of a downward moving vibe than the pranic upward, upregulating part of the first sections of the practice. I think what's happening there for Liz and for the others who commented that makes sense to you is that you're having one of these experiences that can only arise naturally if you prepare the ground well and are fortunate. And that's the movement from the 6th to the 7th limb of yoga, from Dharana to Dhyana. So the last 3 limbs are purely states of consciousness. There's nothing you can actually do with in 3-dimensional space to coax them to arise. Though certainly we're always honing the techniques of concentration, clarity, and equanimity to encourage higher states of consciousness to arise. And this is exactly what Liz and those of you who contributed to that conversation, I think you're describing. So if you're really clear and concentrated in your technique of breath bandha drishti, there will be times and increasingly patterns in which you fall naturally into experiences of complete absorption. So the way that B.K.S. Iyengar described this is in his wonderful commentary on the Yoga Sutras. It's hard to find. The difference between Dharana and Dhyana is that Dharana is like present moment focus on a single note. So the gazing at the candle flame kind of is that. You're radically present, completely focused on one point. And Dhyana is only possible from that place. It's the movement into what BKS describes as a symphony of notes. So you're equally concentrated on each of those points in the symphony, but they're giving way to each other in a flow of experience as meditation. So this is one of those things that cannot be taught, but if you prepare the field well, it's very likely to arise naturally. So this debate of which limbs can be taught and which can be caught is all over the 8-limbed yoga tradition. Assuming that all of you know what are the limbs of yoga, and at least for the first 5, you know how those technically work. So the first 2 are sets of quasi-moral precepts that I would say have no kind of religious valence at all to them. They're just ways of getting out of your own way. Like, don't steal. Tell the truth. Don't do harm. That kind of thing. And moving up through asana, breath work, and sense withdrawal. The 5th of the limbs is sense withdrawal. So breath bonded drishti is explicitly a sense withdrawal practice. You're withdrawing the sense of sight to the inside, the sense of hearing to listening to the breath, and the sense of touch to sensing the inner body, right? So this is highly likely to lead to states of one-pointed concentration. And if you were very, very fortunate, these other two more rarefied states of consciousness. That said, I think the debate about what can be taught and what can be caught goes all the way through the 8 limbs, and they're not necessarily progressive. So the idea that you can simply teach principles of conduct or moral codes, like a sort of a warrior, spiritual warrior moral code from a book, doesn't make sense to me at all. I think without modeling for each other the sort of principles of conduct from the first 2 limbs, we're not going to pick those up either. Those also are caught, not just taught. Think about something like tapas, the intensity of dedication to practice, or svajaya, self-awareness and self-study. We pick these up from each other, and we're constantly reflecting them back to each other. They're not just coming from abstract book teaching. And for that matter, my teaching has always been centered not just on giving you the keys to the kingdom as soon as I can when it comes to good technique, but also creating fields of practice where you can catch good technique. This is one of the greatest challenges now, that we aren't in that sort of energy field that exists when 2 or more people come together, and that it definitely exists for you as you cross the threshold into the practice space at the Shala, where there's a concentrated upward moving energy, and you move into that space, and it's very easy, even from the very beginning, to catch good technique, to catch sort of ways of being. That's why I always say, be a quick study. Model the resonance of your environment, as long as it's a healthy environment. And there's plenty of practice environments that are not that. But the element of body hexis and mirroring when it comes to embodying all of the limbs of yoga is not to be denied. And at the same time, the best I think we can do is prepare the fields as well as we can, have the best possible technique that we can, and just hope to get lucky and enable the higher states of consciousness to arise. And keep practicing when they don't, with non-attachment. Tomorrow and the next day, I'm gonna finish up the bit that we've been doing on honing techniques of concentration. Maybe I'll give you a day off and then add this one last concentration principle. We're actually going to talk about something from the sutras on meditating on the present moment with a lot of clarity. And Wednesday morning, I'm going to teach the techniques class. And I hope you have a wonderful day today. Take care. We're moving into the 2nd month of this thing. I send my love.